Hey guys, it's Tyler from Logan back with another video for you all. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Zalman CNPS 9900 or 9900, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, 9900 Max. Quite a lot of people have mentioned this on the forums and both on YouTube about this, so I thought I would have a look. So thanks to the guys at Quiet PC yet again for flinging it over to me. The earlier versions of these were immensely popular, especially among the A&D community. But I'm going to be testing this as ever on my 950 rig, as we have done with all the other heatsinks. Something that is quite interesting now, I'm going to try and bring this in. It might be worth you going to have a look at the website, or their website about this. Try and get the glare off. But if you have a look at this one, I might even be really clever and paste a picture in. But it's got what they're calling a composite heat pipe, and they're saying that the cooling performance of these heat pipes, the composite heat pipes, is up 50% from a stock heat pipe. So it's quite a big claim really. But anyway, if we whiz round to the back, they reckon this has got about a 300 watt capable handling. That's an immense amount of heat to be able to dissipate. So we'll be pushing this to see if those claims are true. The fan in it, it's got a blue LED and it's 135mm. I'll show you a good close up in a sec, as I always do. I might move my lights a bit because of the glare. I do apologise for the shaky camera. Put it back up a little bit. Oh no, too much. There we go. Anyway, I do apologise. It's got a PWM fan speed control, which basically means it's got a PWM adapter that you can stick with a resistor on if you want to use it like that. I normally have all my fans set up so they're static. I generally don't use the board too much. But anyway, the heatsink's also got what they're calling a black pearl nickel plating. It comes with its own thermal paste or grease, whatever you want to call it, which they're calling the Extreme Performance Super Thermal Grease ZM STG2. I'm going to use this in this test as well. I'm not going to compare, two pastes. I don't want to turn this into a massive, extended review. It's also saying that it pretty much supports all the major sockets as well: 1156, 1155, 1366. 775, and then the most popular AMDs, so the AM3, AM2 Plus and AM2, so an awful lot there. Anyway, let's get that out of the way and actually have a look at the heatsink itself. Now what I'm going to do is whiz the old camera in a bit, and then we can, although that might be a little bit too much, I'm not a hand model, a little bit less. There we go. If I turn it around, you can see you're up quite high with me today, but I'll bring it in for you to have a real close look at. There are in total 4 heat pipes. There's two sets around the back, and then on the front one there's just 2 that are passed through. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 6 actually. I do apologise. There's 6 heat pipes in total. You can see the base there. I'll show you how to mount it, but the base, you can see the camera. Studio light 1. Let me see if I can actually get it in the reflection. There's studio light 2. But yeah, very mirrored, perfectly finished base. See the back of the fan there. I'll show you again in the middle, and then the front. I'll give you a real good close up of the, there we go. So yeah, the idea is this would sit on your motherboard, and we get in the middle, sit on your motherboard, and your exhaust fan would be here, and it literally sucks the air in and blows it across. But what I'm going to do now is just quickly show you how to mount it. It is quite simple, to be perfectly fair. So we'll do that quickly, and then I'll get it in the system, and we'll get it tested. Right then guys, I'm going to crack on and get this all ready to mount up for 1366. You need to start on the bottom. You'll see that you've got the 2 bolts here. Bolts, I should say, screws. Just loosen them off slightly, because what you actually want to do is you need to get the mounting plate, and it actually slides in between. So the easiest thing to do is undo both sets of screws. I'd put it up so you can actually see, that would be a better idea. Right, so we undo both sets of screws. It'd be a lot easier if I was doing this in my hand, there we go, right, we're there now. So you loosen off both sets, and then you make sure that you've got the clips pointing downwards, so you've got the bends downwards, and you push both of those into place. Give it a bit of a pinch, like that. Just give it a bit of a pinch to make sure it's all there, and then do the screws up. Just nip them up, and then old mechanic in me. Final one, do up tight, and then go opposites, just like you would your car wheel nuts. Right, and then basically you have bolts that get pushed through the tops here. One thing I do need to say is for everything else you use the silver bolts, but for 1366 you use the gold ones. Okay, and just to show you the back plate, I've already done 3 of them, but essentially what you do, I've left one just so I can do it on camera. You have these small bits, that's where the thread is, and you just push it through the back plate, so it's pushed through, and then you have the little black clips, and they literally just push over and clip on. And you give it a push, and then you've got all of them there. And then, to be basic, do you know what I mean, it is quite a simple mount. You have the back plate, you got it underneath your motherboard as you would, then you put the heatsink on, and then you just use, where I'm 1366, you then just use your gold bolts. That's it, job done. Quite simple. We'll see what it's like when it's actually in the rig. There is all the fittings for AMD as well, should you want to use AMD. And like I said, I'm going to be using the Zalman thermal paste with this one. What we will be doing is running it with the fans on 12 volts, and we'll also use the fan speed adapter as well, so that we can get the 2 different sets of, for noise and quietness and all that kind of stuff, and see how well the actual cooler copes. But it's time for me to shush, and let's get on with the testing. Right then, we've got it in the main system, all fitted. I do like the look of it in there, I have to admit. The fan does look a bit wonky actually. I think it's just to do with the base plate and the way it's mounted at the bottom, but exactly how I got it, so it's how I fitted it. Something that I am I'm not going to say worried about, but dismayed about, is that this is with it on full speed, and it's not massively quiet. It's not intrusively loud, but it's not quiet. Now the old cooler that was like this was just completely inaudible. It was just whisper quiet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just slide the fan adapter in there to turn the fan speed down, see how much of a difference the slower fan speed makes. Right then, I've put the fan adapter in, but oh look, a bit psychedelic on the fan there once you get it behind the fan, behind the heatsink. Anyway, I've got the fan adapter in, and again, it's still not massively quiet. It's not, again, it's not loud, but considering that fan adapter's in there, and this is meant to be it running at a slower speed, yeah, it's still not quiet. And like I said before, the older versions of this cooler were really, really quiet coolers, and they still worked really, really well. But we'll leave it there, and we'll see what we think of the cooler in the end, at the end of the video. Right then guys, you can see the ambient temperature there. It's 19.60 at the moment. When I took my results it was 19.4. You can see there that we're running the usual 4 GHz overclock at 1.25 volts. There's your temps. I'll just scan across. You can see there that prime has been running. Right, now when I took my temperatures I had 78, 76, 74, 73, and that gave us 75.25 degrees average across all 4 of the cores, with a 19.4 degrees ambient. Take that away from the average, and that gave us a 55.85 degrees delta temperature. So that's with the fans on full speed, absolutely maxi chat. What I'm going to do now is slide the fan adapter in to turn the fans down to a lower speed, and then we'll see how we get on. Right then guys, you can see the ambient temperature there is 20.9. When I took my results it was 20.8. You can see we've had prime running. You can see that we're still, if I zoom in a bit more, it will focus, there we go. You can see we're still running 4 GHz and 1.25 volts. And there are the temperatures at this present moment in time. When I took my tests I got 79, 76, 74, 74. Now bearing in mind this is on with the fans on now low, with the fan speed reducer that came with the pack now fitted. That gave us an average temperature of 75.75. The ambient temperature was 20.8, so when you remove the ambient that gave us a 54.95 delta. Now that's actually lower than when the fans are on high speed. The previous high speed fan delta temperature was 55.85. This one was 54.95. So it's almost a degree cooler with the fans on lower. Now that is quite a strange thing. It's most definitely the first time I've ever known that. And we need to remember that this is at 4 GHz, so it's getting up to towards 80, so things are getting quite warm in there, but we'll finish wrapping this up towards the end. I'm going to bump the clocks up to 4.2 and see how the cooler copes. Right then guys, you were expecting 4.2 GHz results. Well, sadly, the temperatures went right up into the 90s at 1.35 volts for 4.2 GHz. And I was just about to stop prime so that then I could show you on the camera, because obviously HW Monitor, which is the temp program that I use, stores the minimum and the maximum temperature, so I could have shown you that they're all up in the 90s. One of them was at 98. But long story short, literally was just dashing over to turn prime off and the system shut down because of the heat. So yeah, it's not capable of those volts and that clock. Also, quite strangely, we had a slightly lower temperature when running slow speed fans and a higher temperature with the high speed fans on 4 GHz. Now I did run this test 3 times and I got within kind of 0.05 of a degree the same temperatures every time. So it wasn't kind of a balked run, and that was with restarts and stuff. And yeah, I did it quite a few times just to make sure it wasn't just a funny run, but it does seem to perform slightly better with low speed fans in this configuration and all. Do you know what I mean? All those kind of, there's too many variables, but with mine it worked slightly better. So fan speeds. When the fan's on max or 12 volts, it's not intrusively loud, but there is a fair bit of noise there. And even now with it on low, you can still hear that it's quite loud. I mean, the camera won't pick it up, but my rig's practically silent without that in there. And you turn it on and there's a fair bit of air. It sounds like I've got like some case fans or something on 12 volts. So there's still quite a bit of noise there. I do like it. One of the things I need to stress is the cooler just comes up from the socket, so you won't get any problems with RAM. Doesn't matter how tall your RAM is, how much of it you want to have, it won't overhang at all, and that's for every socket. You won't get any RAM problems. At the end of the day, it did kind of hold our 4 GHz overclock below 80 degrees quite well, really, because it was 75 average, but we had one core at 78. That doesn't really matter. One thing I would say though is we had a 55 degree delta. Now this cooler costs £50 at Quiet PC, and I've got to the point now where I think if you're going to spend 50 quid on a cooler, then I would want lower delta temperatures, at least 5 degrees cooler on a delta for a £50 cooler. And I'm not doing this, and I stress this because they will watch it, I'm not doing this to annoy Quiet PC, but I have found a cooler for £35 to £40 elsewhere on Tinterwebs. I don't know whether those retailers have got like a special deal or something like that going on, but it makes it a lot better cooler at that price. If it was that £10, just £10 cheaper, it would be a great cooler. You know, for a budget build and stuff like that, you're still going to get reasonable temps. It looks good, you're not going to get any worries with RAM. It'd be great for so many people. But at £50, it's just getting too close to coolers that are going to beat it up for breakfast. So it's kind of it's a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde. I like it, but I do think it's a smidgen too expensive. Lose that 10 quid and it'd be great, and it almost get to the point where I'd stop thinking about, you know, the fact that it could be needs to be a bit quieter and stuff like that. It's quite difficult because there is such a like a break in the market at the moment where some of the heatsinks are so good, it's making the life for all the other manufacturers so much harder. But there's only a couple of them that are that bit good. But still, from a reviewer's point of view, where the prices are so close, but there's such a big difference in the noise and the temperatures, we've got to always look at those bigger coolers, because that's really, for the small amount of extra money, is where you should be going. But at 50 quid, I've got to say, I wouldn't necessarily be recommending this, especially I'm thinking of you as like enthusiasts that are going to be wanting to overclock and stuff. If you're running an i5, i3, AMD and aren't necessarily going to be wanting to break world records, it could be the cooler for you if you want it because it looks nice. But if you're looking for a quiet cooler or just something to chuck in, I would go as far as to say there's probably something, there are several other heatsinks out there you should probably look at instead of this. So there's no clear-cut place where it stands out and is amazing, because the temperatures are mediocre. The price is, as far as I'm concerned, it's slightly too expensive. And the only real proper plus point is the fact that it will not interfere with any of your RAM at all, and it's far enough away from the rest of the components that you should be, you know, I mean, you won't get any issues around the socket or anything like that. So it's a bit of a funny one. It's another one of those ones where I'm going to try and bombard you with as much information as possible and leave this with you to make your own decisions on whether this could be the right cooler for you. To be frank, if it was quieter, I would probably like it a lot more. I think the price and the amount of noise that it makes, because there is a fair bit of air noise. Yeah, those two things. If it was quieter and cheaper, I'd probably like it a massive amount more actually. It's those kind of niggles there that just kind of sticking in my head, like, yeah. So, score I would give it, let me put it this way, okay, if it was now, I would probably give it a 6, borderline 7. If it was 40 quid and it was quieter, I'd probably be going up in the kind of 8 mark, maybe even thinking a little bit more. It's that much of a difference. Just needs to be quieter and cost about a tenner less. Yeah, if those two things were fixed, it'd be a much better cooler that I'd feel much more comfortable about telling people to go out and buy. But the fact that it is a bit noisy and does cost 50 quid, it's just those two things that kind of playing in my head, and it's just like, So yeah, 6 probably. I don't want to go into halves, like 6.5 really. But if it was cheaper and it was a little bit quieter with the same temperatures, it would be a lot more, a good solid 8, maybe a bit more, to put it that way. That's how, it's just those two little things. Anyway, I'm starting to rabble, starting to go round and round in circles. It's good, but it's not brilliant. So yeah, probably not a thumbs up, but still not necessarily awful. Anyway, this is Tiny Tom Logan, finished with torturing another heatsink, and I need to get this rig turned off, the poor little thing. Any time it's ever on now, it's running prime. Anyway, this is Tiny Tom Logan with another video review for you, out.